Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that discusses the challenges of staying healthy, present, and fulfilled in this modern, fast-paced world. I'm Tiffany Sims, your Disney-loving nutritionist and high-performance coach. I love talking about food, exercise, and getting the most out of life.
And I'm Chelsea Scroggins, your yoga teacher and your motivational life coach. And I enjoy talking, period, but especially about things that enhance the life. And today we have Tianne, our wonderful guest, and we are so excited to have her here. And Tiffany, I'm going to turn it back to you real quick.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay. So Tianne has been in my life for a very long time, but only recently have we actually connected. So Tianne is a mom. Her daughter is my best friend. And so we've been friends for a decade now. And so I see her at parties, at birthday celebrations, things like that. But we never really got to know each other until we started working together in the Simply Healthy program. And as we were getting to know each other, she was sharing with me that, she's looking to, right now she's a massage therapist, and she was looking to break out into the coaching world, and that she really felt called to help women who are entering relationships with men who are widowers, because she's married to a man who was a widower when they met. And as we were sitting there, I'm like, Tianne, that's real life. That's real. And I'm sure there's a whole story about how you cared for yourself, navigating that mentally, emotionally, being able to take care of yourself during that time. And I'm sure there's things you did then in that navigation, as well as when you look back, you're like, I really wish that I had done XYZ, or I wish someone was there to hold my hand through some of these things so that I could just talk about it. Because without putting words in your mouth, I'm sure there comes a lot of shame and guilt sometimes in those feelings and insecurities maybe. And then just how do you manage your health in those times? And so I wanted to have her on the show today and just talk about that, because I think that that's very relatable, real life. So do you want to share a little bit about your story, and then we'll just have three girlfriends sitting at the coffee shop talking and getting to know each other about it.
Fantastic.
Sure. Thank you. As you said, I've been a massage therapist. It's been about 29 years.
So crazy. Crazy at the same time.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
My body is getting tired of it. And I had heard a long time ago that every massage therapist has a specific number of massages to give.
Wow.
When I heard that, I thought it was a bunch of BS. No, I can keep working. I'll work forever, And what I've realized in the last few years is that each one I'm doing is one less that I can do in the future. And I've been looking into life coaching for decades. Well, not decades, for a decade, going back quite a while, thinking that was something I'd like to do. But the trainings that I was seeing, they just weren't appealing. So it was definitely a back burner item. But back in 2008, I met and started dating. I had been a single mom for about 13 years and found a great guy. But unfortunately, I didn't realize how deeply he was still stuck in his grief. And so I fell in love with him, and he wasn't entirely available to me.
Wow.
So there were a lot of struggles that I wasn't expecting, I wasn't prepared for. And we dated for a little over a year before he asked me to move in with him. His daughter had also come home. She was an adult with a child, and I was going through a bad breakup in her relationship, and she asked me to move in. So between the two of them, I felt kind of like they needed a buffer, because they were both grieving. And so I moved in a little sooner than maybe I should have.
Yeah.
So if I could give myself some advice all those years ago, it would be, slow down and really focus on what I needed rather than,
Mhm.
what this man I loved and his
Mhm.
child needed. Um,
How did
Go ahead.
trying to when you said like my first question was like you had mentioned like there's a lot of struggles that go with that, and I was like, oh, I want to go in there, like what does that look like, and like how did you navigate it? And then you were just sharing that the guy you had fallen in love with and his child needed someone to like buffer some of that pain that they were processing,
That
like
was powerful.
that I mean that felt heavy even when you said it.
Mhm.
Hold on real quick, I'm gonna mute myself because the plane's flying.
Okay.
Actually, can you guys hear it?
Yeah, and it sounds
Yeah.
okay to us.
Okay,
It's
then I'll
not
keep
too
going.
big.
It's so
Yeah.
loud. Um, and so like when you were sharing like they needed that buffer, my heart hurt for a second because
Mhm.
from the outside you're like, oh, that's a heavy burden almost. Like that's
Mhm.
a very big responsibility. And so like what was that like?
It was harder than I expected. It really was. I thought, and I mean, we all think and assume, and I thought that more healing had happened than actually had.
Wow.
And so when I found myself in that situation where they couldn't take her portraits down, so I was walked through the house that I'm tending, my
And
home,
see her.
to see her portraits. Some of them actually were her portraits from the funeral home.
Oh, wow. They don't
Some
even see that all the time.
It
Oh,
was daily for a while, for a couple
wow.
of years. So
Wow.
yeah,
Long while.
yeah. So it was heavy
How
when
did
you
you
use
cope?
that.
How did you handle that? Like, how did you cope with that? Like, did you turn to alcohol or food, or were you like, I gotta go for a walk? Like, how
The
do you
blind
handle
eye.
something like
You just
that?
walk past it like this.
Well, all of the above. I mean, um, so my partner was he was, like I said, still stuck in his grief. So
Mhm.
he had turned to alcohol. And
Wow.
so it became like, I don't want to be the only sober adult in the house. I don't want to be the
Mm.
sober person. And so we would then drink together because who wants to be
Bonding.
Yeah.
yeah,
Join them if you
yeah,
can't win them, or what is the saying? If you can't,
can't beat
I
them,
don't know,
join
stake
them.
them, join them, or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, if you're trying to make a connection with someone, that's a logical bonding moment. If this is
Yeah.
what the person I love is doing, like, let's bond over it.
Mhm.
And that was probably his way of escaping that
Yeah.
grief, and then his happy place, right? Or what he thought was his happy place. So you were like, let's get to the happy place together. I feel that 100%.
Yeah. So I did gain weight in that relationship. Uh, I cooked for, at some point, there were 8 of us living in a house,
Wow.
and I was cooking for a large
Wow.
family. Sometimes, sometimes all 8 would eat, sometimes just the 2 of us would eat. So there was a lot of food in the
Mm.
house. So that became a habit as well. And sometimes to escape the stress, I would get up early and go for a power walk. So I was walking and I was eating and I was drinking and I was steadily gaining weight.
I can see you now down the street.
Happy.
Like,
Yeah.
But that was a good escape, though. Let's be honest. And all the other, I'm proud of you for at least doing that, because some people don't even do that. They sit in their thoughts, at least you were still with your thoughts, but walking down the road and allowing yourself to escape in some way. Wow.
Right. Right. And
Yeah.
I turned a lot of my attention and focus to my work,
Mm.
as a healer,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, I needed to stay
Probably right.
grounded and present when I was at work. And for me, that was my time to really be me and to really be grounded and connected with spirit.
Yeah, your safe
Um,
place to
it was my,
feel.
Did people
Yeah.
know you were struggling through that?
did people know?
Yeah, like,
Yeah, there were
or was
people
it
who,
like if I had come across you, like everything was picture perfect and you guys had this beautiful relationship, but behind closed doors, you were like navigating these like seas of
there,
turmoil.
there were some people who knew. There was a small group, that I talked with and shared with, but from the outside, yeah, people thought we were really happy and healthy. We were a couple people wanted to emulate. When it was he and I, and still when it is he and I, we connect and we're powerfully connected.
I love that.
And I knew that he was the love of my life. I mean, there was no doubt about that in my mind. But there was a phase, there was a time of disconnect, or very sometimes hard to maintain a connection because there was so much other stuff.
Yeah,
Mm.
blocking that, or putting a wedge through that.
Mhm.
So when you say you meet another woman who's asking for help, like saying like, "Oh my God, I feel this. I'm in this relationship with this guy. I love them to pieces, but like I feel like the ghost of his wife is still like all around us."
Mhm.
Like, what do you say to her? Like, how do you help her navigate that?
Well, the first thing is that I think she needs to slow down because if that third party is still such a presence and influences so much of his daily interaction, then is he really with you?
Mm.
And, I encouraged my partner my now husband, I encouraged him to explore counseling, or grief counseling in particular. And he was adamant he's just not that guy.
Right.
That didn't
In
help.
denial,
Yeah.
not ready to deal with it, running. Yeah.
Did
So I
you seek counseling? Because I'm sure that was
did
something.
I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
that's
Oh, I'm
healthy.
proud of you.
And
I
that's
did.
huge.
Yeah.
Not everyone can say like, hey, like this might be a him problem, but like I need to learn how to navigate this on my
Yes.
own. And that's so healthy. Like that's amazing because not everyone would see that as a like, let me take care of my house while I navigate this side by side with him.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I did. I did have a great counselor. And she had worked for hospice for a while. So she was a trained grief counselor. So when I went to her, I was like, my partner is we were dating, but he's still spending the night at the cemetery with his partner. And she said,
Wow.
some people do that. It's like, really? You know?
Like, oh, this is a thing. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So having her feedback that I wasn't crazy,
Right. He
he's
wasn't
not
crazy.
crazy, he's just grieving in his way,
Right.
you know.
Love runs deep, and you never know how it's going to be when your
Mhm.
loved one passes, whether that be your spouse, your child, your animal. Love runs so deep. It's so powerful. So I didn't know that people would do that, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Total sense. Wow.
That's I just
Any other insight she would give you about other things that possibly could happen while he's grieving? Just so maybe other people out there who are going through it, there might be other things that they may do that's completely normal.
Right, right. So one of the things that I think we all believe is that there's a loss, and it can
Mm-hmm.
be a devastating loss, and that we heal. But
Right.
healing is 100% not linear.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand about grief, is that it ebbs, it flows. there would be times that he would open a cupboard that he hadn't opened in a while, and there was her favorite glass. There was, something that had that powerful reminder, and it would stir his pain all over.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I
that.
have goosebumps hearing that, because that is so true. So I had lost my father, not to take this in, and it hits you in flows. Like, I just literally yesterday was driving down the road and I was crying, and I guess I felt his presence. There must have been a car that I saw that like enhanced that feeling of, him being gone. And I wished he could see me do the wonderful things that we're about to do, like go to LA and all that. And it just hit me of, oh, you're missing out on that, and missing out on the kids and all that too. So it hits you in the weirdest times too. It's like,
Yes.
first thing in the morning, middle of the day, random things will just trigger it. That's real.
And I was just thinking, like people, when we started the podcast, there are probably some people listening who are like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. And however, like it's very similar when you enter any relationship,
Mhm.
there's that dynamic of there are things from your past life that like trigger things very
Mhm.
very sharply.
Right.
And like
Very true.
even in when you choose to exit a relationship, or a relationship ends and that person's still living, like there are things that you still find happiness in because it's a happy memory. Or
True.
and so then to have enter a relationship where someone lost their partner, had like the relationship didn't end because something happened in the dynamic,
Right.
lost them, like they exited the world, like
Yeah.
that's got to carry a whole different kind of pain and navigation. And did you find yourself like struggling to speak up sometimes because you didn't want to,
Oh, absolutely.
like,
Absolutely. There were strange things like um his deceased wife was several inches, like 5 or 6 inches taller than I am.
Wow.
And I had to move things in the kitchen to where I could reach them.
Right.
Holy cow. I mean,
Oh,
that
don't
was
move that stuff.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
that's like a whole different layer of the toilet paper
Oh,
is on backwards.
Right. Right.
wow. Oh, I feel that 100%, because it's probably a fear of missing again all over again for him. Like, well, what if I lose that too? And it's that, oh, wow. Oh my gosh, you've
Did
been
you
through a
find
lot,
did you
Tianne.
find yourself creating like, so for me, I know that when I was in a relationship where like I didn't want to, I had things to say, I knew I needed to articulate them, but I
Mm,
was so overly careful of when, how, why, because I didn't want to rock the boat. That
right.
for me, my way of coping with that was food. Was
Mhm.
food. I'm
Oh,
going
okay.
to work out. Like I'm gonna go for a run. I'm just, you know what? Suddenly I'm really hungry. Like,
Right.
you
Right.
know? And so like
So you were eating your words.
I was, yes, because it gave me a feeling I was in control, even though it wasn't the type of, I always said, like, why couldn't my control over food be like that I didn't eat it? Why was
Mhm.
control me eating myself into misery? But control nonetheless, like you can't control how your body responds to that stuff. But I found myself unknowingly creating these like really weird workarounds to try to like soothe that tension in my body. um I'm sure you've had something
A
like, I'm
lot
sure
of
you
people do
experienced that
that.
too,
A
because
lot of people feed their emotions with their food, because it's like that happiness. Like once you feel that food, or even that fullness in your stomach, it helps you stop thinking for a moment, because you're just full, you're content. If they say your gut is your second brain, right? So if your brain's racing, you're constant, then you feel your gut, then boom, all of a sudden it's taken over, and you're not racing with those thoughts and how you're going to articulate and when you're going to do it and all that. Just to share a tidbit, since you're saying that, what I would do when I was walking around on eggshells, I start cleaning, or like I just organize, like get everything. It's almost like OCD. So I just move. And it's like the older I get, it's like, you can't just do that. You're going to move yourself into almost dying. You know what I mean? Trying to get this all out. So either you work your ass till you die, or you eat yourself till you die. So I feel both of that.
Yeah. So Tianne, like, when did you notice that you were walking on eggshells and
That's a good
creating all of
point.
these other habits? Like, did you know it in the moment, or is that like one of those like hindsight is really, really clear? We're real smart when we look back.
Yep.
Like,
There was both. I mean, there were moments that it was like, oh, this is really uncomfortable. And then I think I was dreaming a lot
Wow.
and working through some of the anxiety in my dreams and waking up like, whoa, that was intense. Okay, why? And then kind of reevaluating how things had gone in the last day or two. So it was a combination of in the moment and reflection.
how did you take control of that? Was there like a moment when you were like, you know what, like we can't keep going like this? Like, was there a pivot
Yeah.
moment?
Um, there were a couple. There were a couple. Yeah, there
There
was
always are, aren't there?
yeah. There was a specific moment when uh, I had to tell my partner, that my husband, that his way of being angry was destructive. It was very destructive,
Mhm.
and that it was abusive, as far emotionally abusive, and
Right.
I couldn't live with that. That I deserve to be happy and safe and to feel protected by my partner, not
Yeah.
to feel, you know, yeah, exactly. So,
Share all that.
I think when I was really clear with, okay, this is it, this is a
Mhm.
boundary, this is a hard boundary. Um, I witnessed him change, and which was amazing. It was amazing.
So his love for you was deeper than his anger and his, past. I love that. People can shift, but they don't realize how they're even affecting you if you don't open up or finally
Yes.
like step up and put your foot down. Like, look, this is not, I can't do that. But a lot of the times we don't realize it in the moment. We're just going through the motions until you sit down and take that moment, or take that brisk walk outside and realize, hold up, something's not right. I don't feel this way. And then you got to find those words to articulate, or you go to a therapist, maybe together, and then you have somebody be that buffer to help you articulate those words to your partner. And
Yeah,
if
I
they
think
love you, they will show up.
Yeah.
well, yes and no. I challenge that statement a little bit, because I think that someone can love you very deeply and still not be ready in their own journey to give you what you need. But you have
Right.
to be willing. I think a lot of times, and I know I'm guilty of this, where you say all the things and you express what you need, but you're not prepared to respect your own boundary and walk away if the other person can't meet it. And so like that conversation really does have to come with the like you knowing that it has nothing to do with you, and honoring yourself and knowing that, you know what, if this person isn't able to step up to the plate, it doesn't mean I'm not worthy of love. It just means that
Right.
this relationship is no longer working the way it is, and like something's got to change, and sometimes that's a decision you make. You don't give that to the other person. um
Right. But I'm saying that to stick with it and continue to go down that route, if somebody, they'll really listen, or they'll honor that if they're ready. I mean, you both have to be ready, obviously, but that's what I mean by it. It's like if they're really ready and they're at that, and usually when you're at that point, I feel like in a relationship, you're both really probably there, you're just expressing it in a different way. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, but I'm just saying, like, if they're really for you and they're willing to go on this journey, they will shift It's just, you know what I mean? They will put in the work. And if they're not willing to put in the work, yes, honor yourself. You are worthy. You need to step away. And it's not that they're not worthy to love. And it's not that they're, you know what I mean, worthy of love. And it's not, you're not worthy, then yeah. But because if not, you're both just going to explode and it's just going to be toxic, 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 you know?
So
But yeah.
Tianne, what do you recommend to someone who is at that point, like recognizing that their mind, body, and soul are not where
Yeah.
they would like them to be, like, and they know something has to change, but they don't know how to navigate that or to get started because they're so in it? Like, what do you say to that person?
Okay. So, what I say is that you have to be true to yourself.
Mm.
Because if you're not being true to yourself, if you aren't honoring your own feelings,
Mhm.
you're shutting down. And if you're
Mhm.
shutting down, why do you want to be in that relationship?
Mm.
So, as a woman talking to a woman whose partner is still actively grieving, who's not present with her, who isn't 100% with her, how long are you going to be able to live with that? Um,
Mm.
and what are you willing to compromise?
Mm.
I know that my partner, my husband, still goes to the cemetery and visits his wife, his first,
Mhm.
and he talks with her, and and that's fine. If my father's grave was nearby, I would go talk with father. Um, but am I willing to live with daily conversation about how she did things differently than I do? She cooked differently. She did. I'm not willing to
Yeah.
live with that. And so
Yeah.
we had very clear discussions about, I know that when you say, oh, I've never lived with any woman who cooked her eggs like that, what you're saying is that your first wife didn't cook her eggs like that or didn't cook
Yes.
your eggs like that. And I don't want to be compared anymore. So
Yeah,
having,
yeah.
just simple,
That's good.
clear examples of this is a problem
Mhm.
and I don't want to live within that pressure anymore. And, he would acknowledge, okay, I understand. And
So,
if you're afraid to say that to your partner, if you're afraid to say, hey, what you're doing is hurting me,
mm.
then is that the partner you need?
Mm. That's facts.
You know,
Life lesson, whether they're a widower or not, that is
That's
just,
real.
that
It's
is to the core.
real.
Like,
yeah,
You
man,
have to be comfortable to say and express yourself. And if you can't, then like you said, you're going to bottle up and shut down. And it's not healthy for you or anybody around you. It's
no,
not a life to live. That's real.
yeah.
I love that. Tianne, I appreciate you so much for coming on today
Oh,
and just
thank you.
opening up and having the conversation because like my whole jam is helping people heal their relationship with food and
Mm.
exercise.
Mhm.
I want people to stop surviving and thrive. And so often I find that people think that their health and their waistline and how they eat and move their body lives on this island and then there's the rest of life. And
Right.
so like I like being able to share real life stories of like that day in and day out stuff that you're
Mhm.
struggling with because like that matters. They Chelsea and I have been talking about this a lot. Like they meld together. They have to
Yep.
be in harmony. Otherwise things are just off balance. And so
Correct.
I really appreciate you coming in and sharing. How can people get a hold of you if they resonate and want to just reach out for some and touch base some more?
So calvertmassage.com, CALVERT, calvertmassage.com. I do have a page in there about my coaching program, and
Awesome.
which I can do in person or through Zoom, through virtual connection. And that would be the easiest. I can give you my phone number if you want me to do that.
No, I'll put the link in the show
Okay,
notes. Put your
perfect.
cell phone right there on YouTube.
Thank you.
So I will link that in the show notes. If you would like to connect further with Tianne and just kind of chat with her about what's been going on, and just create that relationship, you can go to the show notes and find it. And
Thank
so,
you.
with that, ladies, two humans talking. Have a great day.
Thank
Have a
you.
good day. Thank you
Bye-bye.
again, Tianne, for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate the time.